Well, we have lots of questions about our next guest, our first guest here, because as Natalie, as we've talked about, kids spending a lot of time, it's certainly 2020, online on their devices. And there is a woman who's done a lot of research on this. Check out this clip.
I made a film called Screenagers because as a doctor and a mother, I wanted to understand the risks of screen time for young people and solutions for healthy use.
And I want to know those answers too. And we are so happy to welcome Delaney Ruston to the show. Of course, she has produced and been a part of 2 documentaries that talks about this scary time me and Natalie were just talking about in the screen age years that we're entering for our kids. So, and now you have a new book out as well, Delaney, but good morning.
Good morning. It's so wonderful to be here and talking about this really important issue of parenting in the screen age. And that happens to be the title of the new book.
So let's start here. You know, it's interesting because you're a mom yourself, and I'd imagine that that's where it kind of started for you, of kind of seeing with your own kids what was happening and how much they were craving screen time.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted it so much. And this was 9 years ago when my kids were preteens. And I just was doing this technique. I called it the stab and grab, where I would stab them with my eyes and grab whatever device they had in their hand. I wasn't feeling good about that. And that set me on the journey to make Screenagers. And then on a journey when my daughter started to have some depression, to really understand the impact of screen time on young people. And that led to Screenagers Next Chapter, which just came out fairly recently. And both of those films are all about bringing communities together, youth, parents, teachers, to find solutions.
The stab and grab. I'm going to have to hold on to that one. I'm going to think of you there. We're taking a look at the documentary. You're talking about the depression that your daughter experienced. I even see that in my 3-year-old, not depression, but I see sometimes she gets a little more moody after she spends time on the screen. Of course, that's got to be something that you were able to experience and see in your studies. Is there a correlation between the two?
Well, absolutely. For young people and teens who are spending hours and hours and not having on screens and not having time with friends, and right now that would be more like FaceTime and other ways of having connections, and not doing other things in their life, then that is definitely an association. Now, what I have found is that the number one coping skills teens tell me that they have for dealing with hard emotional and social issues is turning to a screen. So to distract themselves, to numb out, and then they often tell me how they feel worse. So with Screenagers Next Chapter, for me, what was really important is that getting to parents, because I needed it, and to kids and teens, skills for dealing with anxiety, everyday stress, sad feelings, being left out of things that are particularly happening now with COVID. I wanted to find solutions.
So what is your take home for parents? And again, you have the documentaries. I know that groups can get together and watch these, but what are some little nuggets that you can give parents that are watching this morning that you've been able to find through this years of research that can really help?
Yeah. Well, I often talk about my 3 V's. And the first one is validating. It turns out that as a society, we're so scared, and we've had, scary headlines. And as parents, we're nervous that we come to our kids with such anxiety that they actually say parents don't get it. And therefore, they don't work with us around having guidelines around screen time. So the first thing I had to learn to do was to really validate, I get why you want to do this so much. That just soothes their amygdala, and they start to see that we're working on this together. The second is values, talking to our kids about what is important to us and to hear from them and from that place. So as a parent, I value parenting with integrity. Being science-based is how I have to do this so that I don't have resentment, so I don't look back and say, what was I doing? And part of that, for example, is sleep. So much new data is coming out about how important it is to set healthy habits when our kids are young and also as teens, and particularly about how important it is to have devices out of the bedroom during their sleep time. So I say to my teens, and they've done this through their teen years, I also value your input. So what time would that be that the devices are put away for the night, for example? And finally, village. This truly takes what I call a vulnerable village. It takes that when our kids are post-COVID, when things are safe and they're going to a friend's kid's house for a play date, to be vulnerable as a parent and to say, you know what, can we do that as part of that time, be screen-free? And when they come to our house, part of the time will be screen-free. You feel vulnerable to do it. And you see me in Screenagers and Screenagers Next Chapter being vulnerable and doing this. But parents, we appreciate it, and we need each other's support.
I want to kind of throw this out there. We only have about 30 seconds left, if that. I want to get your thoughts, though, pandemic. You've talked about it a few times, in this conversation here. And I know we spoke with parents who have older kids and ones like Carly and myself who have younger. We've given in to letting our kids have more screen time because we figure, well, they're not getting a lot of the things that they're used to. How do we correct that? Are we doing damage during this time? It's going to be hard to reverse, to get back out of it and get back into those healthy habits.
Well, Natalie, I'm just so happy that Parenting in the Screen Age, my first book, and a compilation of years of evidence-based strategies about how we work with our kids, whether they're 6 or age 20, to have really effective communication, that makes me very optimistic that even now, when we're seeing so much screen time, there are so many strategies in this book and the film, what I have learned as a struggling parent and as a physician, that will help our kids to be tech savvy and life balanced, even having spent a lot of time on screens now. Fortunately, for school and other things, we have the tech revolution to help. Even though they're on screens a lot, it's okay. We're not causing permanent damage. And there's lots of ways that we can, as parents, do the work without screaming and doing stab and grab to raise really healthy and balanced children. That's what we all want.
Yes.
Well, Delaney, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you come back because we're just scratching the surface, and now it's so easy to get her to. She's joining us from Seattle this morning. So again, the book is out now. Of course, the 2 documentaries are still available to watch as well. We can't thank you enough. Again, we hope you both.
Goodbye.